Good morning and welcome to our today's lesson. My name is Meshack Kodiko, a teacher of biology. So, a continuation from our previous lesson, we were talking about response and coordination in animals, where we saw some of the parts that are involved here. We had talked about the receptors, and we said that the receptors are those parts of the organism that receive the stimuli. Then we also looked at the effectors, which I said are parts of the organism that bring about a change. That is, after the receptors has received it, then we have those parts that now bring about a change. So we want to look at what we call the components of the nervous system in human beings. How is the nervous system coordinated in order to bring about these changes here? So every organ is in human body is connected by what we call nerves. Like even if you look at the face of an individual, we have several nerves or other organs that are called olfactory organs, which are interconnected. The nervous system therefore is made up of nerve cells, which we are calling neurons, which transmit impulses from one part of the body to another. So when I'm talking about the basic unit, a basic functional unit of a nervous system is the nerve cell, or what we are calling a neuron. That means that without a neuron, there can never be communication from one part of the body to another. So it is very, very vital that each and every part of the organism is connected by a nerve cell that we are calling a neuron. What is the component of the nervous system, or what it consists of? One, the central nervous system, or CNS, is concentrated mass of interconnected nerve cells which make up the brain and the spinal cord. These two parts are very, very important. So should you be asked to name the two major components of the central nervous system, it consists of the brain and the spinal cord. These two parts here, the brain is the center for coordination. And majorly we are going to see the part of the brain that coordinates a lot of activities of the nervous system, that is the hypothalamus part of the brain. Then we also have the spinal cord that work in conjunction with the brain to bring about a communication system or network in the body. So the peripheral nervous system is made up of nerves which link the CNS to the receptors and effectors. What do I mean by peripheral system here? A peripheral system is a system to the outer side. We have those ones that are internal and those that are to the outer side. So we are talking about the peripheral to the outer side. We have the nervous system, which is made up of the nerves which link the central nervous system to the receptors and effectors. That is the parts of the body that receive the stimuli and those parts that bring about a change, what we are calling effectors. So we have three types of cells here, or sensory cells. Number one is what we are calling sensory neuron. Sensory neuron. So you can ask yourself, why do we talk about a sensory neuron? How do we identify a sensory neuron? In most cases, we look at these neurons in terms of the position of the cell body. Let us see this. The cell body, this one being the myelin sheath, myelin sheath here. We have the Schwann cell. We have this part here, the so-called the axon. So we are looking at the position of the cell body in order to determine the type of the nerve cell. If the cell body is off, we say that sensory neuron has got its cell body off the axon. It is to the outer side of the axon. So we call it off the axon. So this cell body is always connected to the receptor organs. Why is it that? The main function of the sensory neuron is to transmit a nerve impulse from the receptors to the central nervous system. When we come back to this other one here, the second one here, we call it a motor neuron. Motor neuron. How do we identify a motor neuron? I said that we look at the position of the cell body, and here you can see that the cell body is at one end of the axon. It is at one end of the axon. What does it do? It takes the information, having sensory neuron having taken the impulse to the central nervous system. It is the responsibility of the motor neuron that is now transmitting a nerve impulse from the central nervous system to those parts of the body that is going to bring about a change, what we are calling effectors. So the main function of a motor neuron is to transmit a nerve impulse from the central nervous system to the effectors. Then how does it do this? There is another third type of neuron here, what we are calling relay neuron. The relay neuron, just as the name suggests, it relays the information between the two types here, that is the sensory and motor. So that means that relay neuron is found between the sensory and motor. So information being taken from the sensory neuron to the central nervous system is relayed to the motor neuron via a relay neuron whose cell body is within. Look at that. It is within the axon. So look at the positions now. When you want to identify, if you are given a diagram of any of these cells here, and then you are told to identify the cell, look at the position of the cell body. Again, we can say that these cells here can be described to be either unipolar, it can be unipolar, multipolar, or bipolar. What do we mean by that? We look at how many dendrites originate from the cell body. If we take, for example, the cell body here of the sensory, it has only one dendrite originating from the cell body, the one dendrite here. So it is unipolar. Sensory neuron, therefore, is unipolar. When we come to the motor neuron is multipolar. Why do we call it multipolar? This being the cell body, there are so many dendrites originating from it. So that's why we call it multipolar. And when we come to relay neuron, it is bipolar. Bi means two, and therefore you can see that it is within here one axon here with dendrite, which is modified to form the axon, is one, and the other one on this other side is two. So there are two. We call it bipolar. So when I'm talking about these neurons here, the sensory nerves link the sensory cell, that's the receptors, to the central nervous system and transmit the nerve impulse from sense organ to the central nervous system. We've now seen the structure here. So structure and functions of neurons. A cell consists of a cell body, that is what we are calling the centron, where the nucleus, or where the nucleus is located, and projections called dendrites that arise from the cell body. One of the projections is drawn out into an axon, that is the longest process. When we are talking about this, one of those dendrites is modified to form the axon in each of the three types of neurons. So each axon contains a fluid, or maybe the part, an axoplasm, which is continuous with the cytoplasm in the cell. So it is through the axoplasm that the nerve impulse is transmitted. The axon is enclosed in a fatty myelin sheath. The sheath here is what we are calling myelin sheath. So it insulates the axon, which is secreted by what we call the Schwann cell. So when I'm talking about the Schwann cell, Schwann is written this way: Schwann cell. Schwann cell here gives rise, because the myelin sheath can undergo continuous friction and it wears out. So therefore, when it wears out, it is the responsibility of the Schwann cell to give rise to a new myelin sheath. Now, The myelin sheath is interrupted at approximate intervals of 1 millimeters intervals or constrictions that are called nodes of Ranvier. So this one here is what we are calling node of Ranvier. The main function of the node of Ranvier is to speed up the rate of impulse transmission. So the myelin sheath is enclosed by a thin membrane called neurolemma. There is a narrow membrane that we are calling the neurolemma. Neurolemma. That neurolemma is important because it also insulates the cell. So the myelin sheath is enclosed by a thin membrane called the neurolemma, which is part of the Schwann cell in contact with the axon. So the myelin sheath and nodes of Ranvier enhance transmission of a nerve impulse. So if we look at what we have seen, the structures of these types of neurons, we have seen what they do, why do we refer to them as a sensory neuron, and what do we look at, and at the same time the motor neuron, we look at the position of the cell body, and then the relay neuron. So with that, we come to the end of our today's lesson, and I welcome you next time.